Hello everyone and welcome to our video today. This is my build for the Stamina DK as of patch 33 or the Ascending Tide update. This is probably one of the most fun builds I've played on Stamina DK in years. I believe that the upcoming changes to the hybridization of builds in the game are going to make a world of difference in the terms of PvP, especially in some classes that easily hybridize, such as DK. So without little ado, these are the base unbuffed stats. For foods, I would suggest the Artaeum Takeaway Broth. If you want a good mix of recoveries, health, and stamina buffs, the Witch Sugar Skulls is a third option, but my preferred option on this build so far has been the Orzura's Smoked Bear Range. You have nice recoveries across all of your stats, and you get that extra health to push you up to 31k in my case here. Stamina is a bit low when you consider how most builds function, but with the hybridization in this build, I believe that much stamina isn't needed. Now we set at a base weapon damage here of 4,000, which is already decent on its own. Now when you buff up with your rally, and switch back to your main bar, you have 48, 29. That will be buffed further if you hit anyone with a Earthen Heart ability, in this case something like Shattering Rocks, because you will have this passive here, which will give you an extra 10% weapon damage. If you combine that with another set, for instance like Valor's on your ultimate, you will be pumping out a lot of weapon damage very quickly. Now for the sets in this build, pretty standard towards what this meta is going for. Blood Spawn, you cannot go wrong on a DK with this build. Daedric Trickery, another set right now that is just insanely overpowered, insane and just meta. You get so many buffs on this for the DK, especially things you don't innately have like Expedition or Protection. Those are insane when you put them on a DK. Now I use 3 pieces of this. There's going to be 2 heavy. There's going to be the back bar weapon. This you can change to anything you like better. Preferably I have been using the Battle Axe. I use that because if you go into 2-handed passives here, you can get extra critical damage when you're on that bar and your dots are ticking. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. You could change that out for a greatsword if you want to increase your, back bar healing from your rally or resolving vigor. You could change that to a maul if you really want that penetration on the few dots that you're going to be running here. Ultimately, I don't think it's too important on what you run there. That's personal preference. Now, for my main bar, I've been choosing to run double Plague Break swords, and I have them both as charged with a flame and poison glyph. Why do I do this? Charged is ultimately almost superior than Nirnhound in my opinion when you're playing a Dragon Knight. A Dragon Knight, you can get so much weapon and spell damage that stacking it doesn't necessarily make that much of a difference. But with that charged, you keep poison and flame procs up 100% of the time, which very well works with your combustion passive here. You get extra damage from those effects by 50%. You get extra recovery every half a second from either proc. That's pretty crazy, especially when you're in a 1v1 duel. You have all that recovery going in, plus an extra 1,000 to your magicka and stamina. And that's not considering you have a buff like your rally up here. So you're looking at maybe 2,700 or stamina recovery when that goes through. That is massive. Continue on. I'm also running Plague Break. You can't get away from it in this meta. It is just strong. If you're dueling anyone with this set, you have a burst ability in that damage. The disease damage proc there that will explode. And you have a nice little dot over there. Dots, you know, you're running a DK, you're going to have a lot of dots up. You could change that out for a stat set if you want, but with the current meta, it's just too hard not to run this set. Of course, on my heavy pieces, I run Tri-Stat, and on all my little small pieces here, I have Stamina Enchants. My weapons, or my jewelry here, I have a Necklace of the Trainee with extra health. You can change that out for infused weapon damage. I kept that as health because that's just how I bought it, and I really don't care to change it. It works for me. Another Plague Breaking here. Again, you can change the traits if that makes you happy. For me, I've been running just with these basic traits, and I've been doing very well with this build. And of course, you can't play a build on the DK right now without Mellowcasts. It is just overpowered. That critical damage that you lack from this is not really important when you're playing a Stamina Dragonite. Stamina Dragonite builds don't build for crit. I never see any Stamina builds on Dragonite build for crit. So if you want to run a heavy brawly set, such as Daedric Trickery, and combo it with a nice burst set like your Plague Break here, Mellowcast is just a great option for you to run. Now that I have infused with Stamina Recovery, I do this because I also play a lot of Battlegrounds, and sometimes if I want to change into a Battlegrounds, I need that extra Stamina Recovery. You could change that to weapon damage if you're going to play in CP, Cyrodiil, or Imperial City. That is another option of personal preference. Again, I run these swords. Dual wield is so important this patch and with this meta. You do so much extra damage. Having the dual swords gets you a bunch of extra weapon damage there. It's very hard not to run them. Now, with the skills I'm running in this build, I don't run a stamina spammable. Well, not in the traditional sense that I'm not running a two-handed with Dizzy Swing here, or for some of you psychopaths out there, I'm not running Stonefist. Do not ever run Stonefist. That's just a terrible option, and I don't know why you would do that. Regardless, I elected to start using Flame Lash over Power Lash. The reason I do this is because of that giant heal and that extra damage that comes off of the off-balance or immobile proc. Now, why in this case I run that is because if you combo that with Shattering Rocks or Fossilize, whichever you prefer, I like Shattering Rocks for the extra heal. That will be your immobilization, your stun. You combo that right into Flame Lash, you do massive damage. You heal for anything you're taking in that. And that only goes up once you buff yourself up here. You're going to be doing some massive damage with that. Of course, you can't run a Dragonite build without Venomous Claw, Noxious Breath. Those are very important dots. Of course, you afflict people in Major Breach there, which reduces their resistances further, while you already have such strong damage. I have Whirling Blades for my Execute. It's a nice little spammable, you get AoE on it. Shattering Rocks is your stun, obviously. Take Flight. Can't have a more staple ability in the Dragonite class. You can't get away from it. You could, if you're absolutely having trouble with it, you could run your Fighter's Guild Dawnbreaker Smiting. I prefer that for that stun there. But I always try to use Take Flight. Too important. Back bar, rarely. Resolving Vigor, important buffs. You need to keep these up at all times if you can. Volatile Armor. It's now scaling off your physical and spell resistance for the return damage. And I believe this magic damage there. Personally, you can run either or of these morphs. The damage shield that you're gonna get is not that impressive. Especially once you get into PvP, that's only really a tank ability. So I would just keep the volatile for that extra little poke damage that happens there over the 10 seconds. Cauterize, another important heal, and you get a little extra, critical on this bar. Again, not important because you're playing a DK. The Race Against Time is my major expedition and my stun and snare removal. I love this ability, especially when I play a slower class like the DK here. Having that extra speed to just zip around and do whatever I gotta do, very important. And Magma Shell, I would have this alternatively changed to Corrosive Armor. I just haven't switched that skill around yet. Messing around with my builds here. If you don't want to run Magma Armor or Corrosive there, then I would suggest changing your monster set to Battle-Orgs, because you have that back bar. Corrosive, you pop that, and you have no more, worries about your enemies resisting your attacks. You have full penetration there. It's just way too important to have this on your build, especially if you want to get up close and brawl, because this is just God mode. Hit that, you're invincible for a few seconds, and you do so much more damage because you have full penetration once this is changed to Corrosive. But, like I have said, this is probably my favorite build on the DK that I have played in years, and I would highly recommend that you check it out in your free time. And that will be my first Stamina DK build for this patch. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you in Cyrodiil or Battlegrounds.